Okay, welcome everybody to our live event today on the Gupta Program and its effects on fibromyalgia and other chronic conditions. So we're very pleased that you are joining us today. And in today's session, what we're going to be doing is looking at some of the data, some of the latest clinical evidence that's supporting the effect sizes of the Gupta Program on various conditions, but especially a new study which has just been published in April 2025, which is very, very exciting. It's the largest randomized controlled trial that we've done. And I'm so excited to share the results of that study with you. So to introduce myself, my name is Ashok Gupta. I'm the founder and CEO of the Gupta Program. And I'm delighted that you've taken out the time to join us for this live event. And of course, please do share this live event amongst friends, family, other support groups, or people you think could really benefit from this particular event. So I really hope that you will have the opportunity to share this live stream with others around you. And in terms of what we're going to cover today, we're going to go through the results of this latest clinical study, as I said, just published this month. And then we'll look at some of the other studies that have been published to give you an overall feel for the scientific evidence behind neuroplasticity, brain retraining, and these approaches for chronic diseases. And then straight after this event, we'll have a live Q&A at 45 minutes past the hour, which our team will share in the chat. And perhaps you've already received one of the links in any case via email. And in that Q&A, that will be on Zoom. I'll answer any of your questions that you have about the studies or anything else about whether the Gupta Program is right for you. So to start my journey and my background to how I got involved in this arena, I actually suffered from ME, or chronic fatigue syndrome, many, many years ago in the mid-90s, mid to late 90s, when these conditions weren't often recognized, never mind really understood or treated any particular way. And I remember in my darkest moments, I made that agreement, that contract with the universe, that if I can just get myself 30% better, 50% better, whatever it may be, I will dedicate the rest of my life to helping others with these types of illnesses, because there's untold suffering that is going on around the world from people experiencing these types of conditions. And I managed to get myself 100% well, published a medical hypothesis in 1999 and 2002. And since then, we've now published a whole bunch of medical studies, and we are the first program out there that published in 2007. And since then, as I said, we've published studies, we now have an app, and I'm excited to share with you the latest evidence. And why is this important? Because when you're thinking about what treatment options there are for you, of course, there can be skepticism and distrust of any new treatments. I mean, we can all go onto Instagram and Facebook, and everybody's promising some kind of treatment for the chronic illnesses. And the chronic illnesses that we treat certainly are long COVID, fibromyalgia, mold illness, food and chemical sensitivities, obviously ME and chronic fatigue syndrome, and a whole host of similar conditions which doctors or traditional medicine may find difficult to treat. And that also includes things like anxiety, burnout, excessive stress, insomnia. All of those types of symptoms can also be improved using our program based on the latest clinical evidence. And when we have one of these types of chronic conditions, I know what it feels like. You have limited energy, limited bandwidth, and perhaps you've found that you've tried other treatments, other approaches without success, or perhaps there's been limited success, and that's created frustration or a feeling of, well, I don't know if there's anything that's going to help me. We can be doubtful about new approaches, and I totally understand that. And therefore, what's really important is the objective clinical evidence, the scientific data to back up whether these approaches actually work or not. And that's what we'll be looking at today. Is there any science behind this, or is this just another woo-woo alternative treatment that doesn't really have the science behind it? And when we look at some of the scientific evidence, we also want to understand that what is the gold standard in science is randomized controlled trials. So those are trials where you take two groups of people and you give one group of people a particular treatment, and at the same time, at exactly the same time, you give another group of people who have been randomized. So there's two random groups of people. You give the second group some other treatment, or they're a wait list. So they're just waiting for treatment, but they don't actually have something active. And then you compare them after 3 months to see, or after a month, to see, has this actually made an improvement? Yeah, and that is the gold standard in science, to really have these randomized controlled trials. And for us, out of 7 clinical studies that we've now had published, 6 of which are independent, so 6 independent clinical studies, 5 of those have been randomized controlled trials, which is very exciting. And thanks to all the team within the Gupta program who've worked tirelessly to make that happen. Because for those of you in the medical arena, you'll know how difficult it is to get randomized controlled trials. So let's dive straight in and let's look at some of the study results from this latest study on fibromyalgia. So I'm going to share with you what this study was all about. Now, this particular study was conducted on fibromyalgia patients, and there were 117 patients that entered the study. Okay, so it's over 100 patients. And they were split into 3 groups. These are fibromyalgia patients. The first group was the control group, and they were taking a treatment, medication known as pregabalin. And sometimes in the US, it's called Lyrica. And it's one of the only treatments that is recommended for fibromyalgia. And it's a drug that often is also prescribed for epilepsy as well. So the control group were taking a particular drug. So that's an active control. Then a second group took part in mild physical activity, mild to moderate physical activity to support their symptoms. And a third group took the Gupta program. And in our clinical studies, the Gupta program is known as AIR, or amygdala and insular retraining. All right. So these were the results. So after 3 months, first of all, in the active Gupta program group, there was a 54% reduction in fibromyalgia scores. So more than a halving of fibromyalgia scores, which for us was an incredible result. And a study that we'd done a number of years ago had showed a 37% decrease. So the fact that we've shifted the program, we now have an app and it's easier to use, shows that improvement there, that there's almost more than a halving of fibromyalgia and only 9% in the control group. And so you can see these results here in terms of those scores. So at the baseline, the scores are very similar amongst the 3 groups. Then after 3 months, that's the post-intervention, you can see the blue line, which represents the Gupta program. There was a very powerful result compared to physical activity and pregabalin. And what's really interesting is that many people can say, well, do the results actually last? Yeah, does a person continue to have these benefits? But we can see in the follow-up, so the follow-up was 8 weeks later, those patients continue to experience that improvement. And of course, in this particular study, it was a 3-month study, and we often encourage patients to continue for 6 months. So had this been a 6-month study, we think that there would be continual and further improvement in those scores. And let's look at some of these specific symptoms. So looking at sleep disturbances. So sleep, we know, is a big issue in fibromyalgia, long COVID, and many different chronic diseases, chronic inflammatory diseases. And in this study, we were quite surprised ourselves. Remember, this was an independent study, so we were not involved in the conduction of this process and this study. There was a 63% reduction in sleep disturbances and only 15% in the pregabalin group. Yep. And you can see that there. And so the Gupta program group is the solid black line, and you can see that was even more effective, far more effective than even the physical activity. And the Lyrica, the pregabalin. And there was a 50% reduction in pain catastrophizing, only 8% reduction in the control group taking pregabalin, the Lyrica. And you can see a halving of pain catastrophizing, which is a great result once again. So you can see the result graphically there. So a halving of pain there compared to the control and compared to physical activity. So the Gupta program is the solid black line in this graph. And once again, in follow-up, that also shows that the results continued, even 5 months after the start of the study. Now let's look at depression. Now what's really interesting is that in a lot of these types of studies, perhaps depression and anxiety isn't followed, but in this study, they did look at mood in addition to physical symptoms. And this is once again for us a great result here, that a halving of depression essentially, and only an 8% improvement in the control group, the pregabalin group. And we don't formally recommend the Gupta program and for depression, because obviously with moderate to severe depression, it's very important that someone is under the being looked after by a medical practitioner. But it's just very interesting to see that type of result. And finally, a 16% increase in cognitive function and only 4% in the control group. And you can see that in graphically here. So the Gupta program group is a solid black line at the top. And you can see that at baseline, the Gupta program group actually started lower than the other two groups, but ended up higher and significantly higher than the pregabalin control group in terms of cognitive function. And those results were kind of continued on follow-up as well. There's a slight dip, but pretty much the improvement was sustained. So this is the overall result of this particular study. And for those of you who registered via email, we'll be sending you links to this study and also the paper itself. So if our team can just in the chat share the link to our results page, our study page, and there on that study page, you'll be able to see this particular study. You'll be able to link directly to the paper so you can read it for yourself. This was published in a very respected journal, Current Psychology, and you can read the paper yourself. It's an independent study, and it's just very exciting to have this type of result, especially when we're not a drug company. So most clinical research monies get diverted and are funding drug studies, but to be able to conduct these types of studies on very small budgets is very exciting. And of course, many of you know that we also have a 501c3 fund in the US that we are looking for funds to support further randomized controlled trials. So that's a charitable donation. So if any of you are interested, please do get in contact. If you know any donors who'd be interested in contributing to these types of studies, that's exactly what we are looking for, because we can't benefit from the types of funds that normally get channeled to medications. And just to share some of our other studies very briefly. So a previous study in 2020 on fibromyalgia, that showed a 37% reduction in fibro scores after 8 weeks. So this was an 8-week study rather than a 3-month study. And it had a 47% increase in perceived health. And once again, very close to a halving of pain, a halving of depression, and a halving of anxiety. So some similar results, but the recent study showing much, much better results than that previous fibromyalgia randomized controlled trial. Then looking at long COVID. This was a study where we compared the Gupta program to a wellness program. So this was comparing apples with apples, where it was a structured 12-week program, like the Gupta program is, and this wellness program. And what we noticed, and this was very exciting once again, the Gupta program was 4 times more effective at reducing fatigue compared to the wellness program. And that wellness program had supplements, diet changes, sleep, activity levels, how to calm the mind. So it was a very comprehensive wellness program. And yet the Gupta program was 4 times more effective at reducing fatigue, twice as effective at increasing levels of energy. And there was a 97% increase in energy levels in the active Gupta program group. So this was a study on long COVID, and we've got more studies that we're working on long COVID. And so if you do know anyone suffering from long COVID, please do share this video and our resources with them. And then looking at an independent clinical audit of our patients that was published, I think last year. This looked at overall health and functioning and the percentage improvement that patients had after 12 weeks plus of using the Gupta program. And to make these circles slightly bigger for you, let's go on to the next slide. This was a percentage improvement. So you can see 70% improvement in ME and chronic fatigue syndrome, N equals 139. So this wasn't small numbers, 5 or 10 patients, there's 139 patients. 84% improvement in long COVID, 67% improvement in mold, etc. So you can see all of these different conditions and the percentage improvements there. So I'll put that on the screen there for you to take a look at. And this is really interesting because this study was conducted before we had the app. And the app, as you know, means that you can conduct your brain retraining and your nervous system regulation on the go, on the move. And it's so much easier than logging into a website each time. So we believe that the results would be even more powerful with our latest resources. Okay. And then finally, there was a recent study done on older adults looking at sleep, depression, and cognitive decline with the Gupta program compared to a control. And there was a 37% decrease in depressive symptoms, 56% improvement in sleep, 26% improvement in working memory, and a 37% decrease in emotional dysregulation. It's an independent randomized control trial. So I'd love for you to be able to share these results and this particular live stream with your friends, your family, perhaps sharing it with people you know who suffer from these illnesses, because we can only improve people's lives when we get the word out there that you're not stuck with your condition. And many patients who belong to certain forums or support groups are told time and time again that there's no treatment, people don't improve. And we really want to give people hope that we are seeing people improving, we are seeing people healing from these chronic conditions every day. And so I really hope that you can share this and give inspiration and hope to people all over the world. Now, looking at what the implications of this is, the implications really are that we know with our audience that there is a critical success factor in people healing from these conditions using neuroplasticity. And it's a horrible word in science. It's compliance. And I really don't like that word. But what it really means is consistency. How consistent are we? How committed are we to engaging with brain retraining? And it is so worth it. So if you're somebody who perhaps is new to neuroplasticity and brain retraining, I really encourage you to look at this approach and take our free trial. You don't have any commitment there. You can see if this is right for you. Or if you're already brain retraining, whether through our program or other methods, just really knowing that it is that consistency and commitment that really can help you get to your recovery. Just like learning, for instance, a musical instrument. In a similar way, a musical instrument or learning a new song or learning how to drive, these activities all take advantage of neuroplasticity. Repeated movements or repeated thought processes or repeated brain retraining that create new neural pathways, that create new memories that enable you to learn something new. And in the Gupta program, we're helping you unlearn the old brain patterns that continue the immune system and nervous system to be dysregulated and overstimulated, and create new brain pathways that enable your body and brain to come back to health and homeostasis. And so that consistency and that commitment is so important. And we find in our studies that people who commit at least 5 or 6 times a week, we're not asking for a long time, at least 20 minutes, 6 to 7 times a week, they get the best outcomes. And what can be more important than having our health back? It's such an important part of our lives, our well-being, and our ability to function in the world. And how do we make brain retraining more effective for you? Well, what I'd like to do is just briefly share with you some of the ways that we engage with our audiences and provide these facilities and our app. So in our app, and this is the web version of the member area, we first of all invite people to choose their healing path. All right. So when it says choose your healing path, we enable people to match their healing, or rather their learning styles, to a particular pathway. So some people are very self-directed, so they can just work through the program at their own pace. Other people like to start with a coach, so you can start with one of our coaches and work through the program. And something which has proved very popular is this 90-day program. Now, the 90-day program, the first 90 days of your neuroplasticity approach, what this enables you to do is have a specific thing that you are asked to do each day. So if you've got brain fog or you feel overwhelmed, you're not sure what you should be doing, the 90-day program has proved incredibly popular, where on day one, as an example, you get specific things to do, videos to watch, audios to listen to. And then day two, once again, specific videos to watch, all short videos, 3, 5 minutes, 10-minute videos. Day 3, day 4, and so on, feeding into a 90-day program. And when we conducted a very small sample study, about 75 patients who had the option of using the self-directed or the 90-day program, 83% of our audience said that the 90-day program was better than the self-directed program, and they found it 72% better. So 90-day program was 72% better than the self-directed program. So this was huge for us. We'd never realized it would be that popular. And so this is, once again, if you've got brain fog, you find it difficult to follow a program, this is so easy because step by step, you're taken through the program each day for a specific set of instructions, and you get to tick off the different activities each day. And something that we're very proud of that we have every day is daily Gupta size. Daily Gupta size is where we have our coaches, our trained Gupta program coaches, presenting the nervous system regulation and the brain retraining every day live on Zoom. And this is so powerful because many people want to know how they can adjust their retraining, how they can feed into certain nuances that make it more effective for them. And by seeing a coach going through it differently each day, it enables you to have variety, so you never get bored with your retraining, but then also learn from each coach and their particular style. So these daily events every day live on Zoom have proved incredibly popular. For many people, have been an absolute game changer. And we also have webinars with myself. So we have weekly webinars where I take you through the content of the 90 days. So the webinar series fits with the 90-day program and take you through a specific amount of content each week. And of course, we have a loving, supportive forum. So you can go into our forum and ask questions. And this is our community here. And that enables you to feel like you're part of a group rather than doing it all on your own. Marianne stating here, it's helped me tremendously with post-exertional malaise. So if you're someone who has post-exertional malaise, which is essentially a scientific term for you feel very tired after any activity, essentially, where you just feel demotivated, you have lack of energy, lack of resources, or your symptoms get much worse, then this is something that we notice with a lot of our patients. After they're going through the Gupta program, they're able to improve their activity levels, increase their activity levels, and gradually, paced way, get back to a normal life. And of course, a lot of these different conditions essentially are being caused by threats to the system. So you might have had a flu, some other virus, bacterial infection. You may have had mold exposure, may have had some kind of pain or injury. And normally we get over these conditions. But in our hypothesis, what then happens is the brain goes into a threat maladaptation process where it starts maladapting to that threat, starts chronically triggering the immune system and nervous system. And this is occurring in the amygdala and insular parts of the brain in our hypothesis. And that then continues to create these types of symptoms. And we've, so far on our website, you'll see certain conditions that we are prescribing our program for. And what we've actually found is that so many people are coming to us saying, hey, we've been using it for dysautonomia. Hey, we've been using it for benzo withdrawal. Or we've been using it actually for autism. So we had an autism expert just this week who works with hundreds of people with autism, and said actually she believes our program could support people with those types of conditions. ADHD, OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. We've had people use it for so many different things because essentially the program is agnostic. It doesn't care what you use these techniques for. It enables you to retrain the brain, create new neural pathways that enable you to overcome physical, mental, or emotional conditions where the brain has got stuck in a particular survival response. And even at some level, anxiety is a survival response. It's an overprotective response. Some may say even depression with the over-inflammatory response that accompanies it is a form of an overprotective response. And therefore, that's why we believe that brain retraining and neuroplasticity can support the healing of a wide variety of different conditions. And we are conducting more and more randomized controlled trials to support that. So if you're someone who's felt lost with your condition, who's tried so many different approaches, we really hope that you give the Gupta program a go, give neuroplasticity a go. And we really believe, based on the evidence we have and all the other treatments out there, this is the most effective way of healing from a chronic condition. And don't just take our word for it. You can read the scientific studies, the objective studies out there on our website, and our team will just share once again in the chat. It's guptaprogram.com/research. Yeah, so that's guptaprogram.com/research. And until we have the large scale, almost like phase 3 trials that you see in clinical studies with pharmaceuticals, until we have the large scale studies with hundreds and hundreds of patients, we offer a 1-year money-back guarantee. So you can use our program for up to a year. And if you have no improvements, you can return the program, no questions asked, get your money back and use that money on something else. So we've reduced the risk of taking on a program like this to you, so you can have the program and use it in your own time, your own space, and not feel like you've now got to worry about the monetary aspect of it. So once again, please do share this on your social, share it with support groups, this clinical evidence that we've shared today, and let's really, dare I say it, heal the world. There are millions of people, we estimate tens of millions of people suffering from long COVID, tens of millions of people suffering from fibromyalgia and ME and chronic fatigue syndrome, who aren't really getting the resources that they need, aren't really finding anything that consistently supports their healing. And I really want to give you that hope that whether it's through our program or other approaches, people are able to heal. People are getting better, and you can do so too. So once again, we're going to now go and have a live Q&A on Zoom, and our team will share the Zoom link in the chat. And if you don't have the Zoom link, you can register for the Zoom link. You'll get the Zoom link instantly on the page that you would have received via email. All right. So once again, our team are just going to share the Zoom link in the chat window so that you have that there, and we'll be able to go onto Zoom and answer a lot of your questions. And people are asking, does the daily Gupta size cost any extra? No, it's all included in the package. So in your package, you get a physical manual in the post. We don't charge anything extra for. You get the daily events live on Zoom. I mean, that's literally 20 events a month. Because Monday to Friday, we have these live events. You get the weekly webinars with myself, all included. You get the support forum, all included. So there's only one cost, and that includes all this kind of healing infrastructure. And yes, mast cell activation syndrome, once again, this is something which we've had the studies showing that it does improve people's lives. Great. So thank you, everybody, for watching. I hope you'll give the Gupta program a go and take on our free trial and then join us for the Q&A. So the Q&A link is in the chat there. Please do join us for that. We'll see you in 15 minutes time. So 45 minutes past the hour, we'll be having our live Q&A. Thank you so much for watching. Please do share this widely and never give up hope. You can heal. It's your birthright to have the health and happiness that you deserve. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you there soon. Goodbye.